In the last video, we talked about forces and moment arms and how they can induce torques in either a clockwise or counterclockwise direction. So I want to return to the example we started with, which is the bicep curl with no weight, and the only force of resistance you work against is just gravity pulling your forearm down. So that's going to be the weight of your forearm being pulled down by gravity. That force is offset by this moment arm here, and that's going to create a torque that's going to have a tendency to extend your elbow. Sometimes if you read clinical literature, you'll see this written out as a elbow extensor moment, or an elbow extension moment, or an elbow extension torque. But if you're doing a bicep curl exercise, you are going to be creating force with your bicep in this direction, some amount of force here, and this force is going to have some moment arm like this. Notice again, not vertical, but perpendicular to the direction of the force. This moment arm and this force is going to produce a torque going this way. It's going to produce an elbow flexion torque. So if maybe we can write out on one hand going this way, we have this force and this moment arm, and I'm going the other way, so that's going this way. That's the torque that is going to try to flex the elbow. And then the torque that's extending the elbow, or trying to extend the elbow, is this force, which is the weight of your forearm multiplied by whatever that moment arm is, which is gravity. And I suppose I should color code these correctly, shouldn't I? There we go. So what's going to happen is that if the muscle force multiplied by the muscle moment arm is bigger than all the forces trying to extend the elbow, then you're going to flex the elbow. And maybe if you have a lot of weight and you can't support it, and there's a bunch more torque down here, then your muscle is going to lose and the elbow is going to extend. So whether your joint flexes or extends or stays in the same place, you could maybe guess correctly that if these were exactly equal, then you would just be holding your arm out statically. And we might do some problems in a problem set where you just solve for the equilibrium, where if you're just holding something out constant, all those torques are equally balanced. So this is the primary function of muscles in the body, is to generate a force like this that opposes some force like this from the outside environment. And we can even think of this in more complicated terms. So when you are actually doing a real bicep curl, you are not working against just the force of gravity pulling on your forearm. So your forearm, is, the force of gravity is acting on it at its center of mass, and it's offset by some moment arm here. But you also have a dumbbell in your hand, right? And that has some weight, or in other words, some mass that gravity acts on to create a force. So you've got this force offset at this moment arm, and this force offset at, and you can see why I use this kind of bracket notation for moment arms. This, because things are getting a little busy here, this moment arm here, both of these are going to have the tendency to extend your elbow. And your job, your biceps job, is to create enough force here that's going to get multiplied by whatever the moment arm of the bicep muscle is, to create enough torque to overcome all this resistance. So we could think of this as like balance of torques. And if you take biomechanics or if you take physics, there's all sorts of fun stuff you can do with actually doing a bunch of really nasty math to figure out how much force does the muscle need to produce to overcome such and such a torque. In this class, I might have you do a little bit of calculations only on a problem set, but we're going to focus on the conceptual idea of muscles creating torques in one direction to oppose torques caused by, usually but not always, gravity in the other direction. There's one more thing that's unique about muscles in their force production capabilities, and that is that their moment arm will change as a function of the configuration of the body. And I'll show you what I mean by that in the next video.